Jesus dedicated his life to love. Every word he spoke and every action he took was rooted in love. His message was simple yet profound. Love was the cornerstone of his teachings, his mission, and his life. Anyone who genuinely looks at Jesus' life and teachings will see that he was a man filled with compassion and empathy for all. Jesus cared for everyone who crossed his path. He helped the downtrodden, gave generously to the poor, defended the marginalized, and made friends with those society often cast aside. The religious leaders of Jesus' time, however, saw him as a threat. In many ways, they were disturbed by his radical approach to love, especially because he was unafraid to expose their hypocrisy. They were so threatened by his boldness and his challenging of societal norms that ultimately they sought his death. Jesus' compassion, his defiance of societal hierarchies, and his unwavering dedication to standing up for the oppressed made him a revolutionary, a rebel who stood for the very people whom others scorned. Today, it's heartbreaking to see some voices that preach hate or exclusion try to claim that Jesus is on their side. But let's be clear about one thing. Jesus himself explicitly taught which side he stood on. In Luke 10:27, he summarized his entire message by instructing us to love God and love your neighbor. That was his core teaching. Jesus made it unequivocally clear that he was on the side of love. So anyone who harbors prejudice, acts in cruelty, or excludes others based on differences cannot claim to be aligned with Jesus, because that stance is fundamentally opposed to his teachings on love and compassion.
For each of us, this means we need to continually examine our actions and our motives. We must ask ourselves, are we truly on the side of love? With every decision, every word, every interaction, we should reflect, is this love? If the answer is yes, then we can be confident that we are likely standing alongside Jesus, aligned with his teachings. And if the answer is no, perhaps it's time to reconsider. For those who have been hurt by others who claim to follow Christ, remember that God sees everything and will hold people accountable for their actions. The pain caused by those who misuse the name of Jesus is real, and it will not go unaddressed. God will judge them justly, but don't let their mistreatment push you away from love. Instead, choose love, despite the hurt, because if you choose love, you are likely closer to Jesus than those who caused your pain. Jesus knew that there would be people who would misuse his name to justify hateful actions. This is why in Matthew 7:22, he warns that on the day of judgment, many will approach him, claiming to know him, saying, Lord, Lord. But he will say to them, depart from me. Why would he send them away? Because they did not fulfill the will of God. They did not live in love as he instructed. Matthew 25:31 gives us a clear vision of what will happen when Jesus returns. He describes a moment when he, as the king, will gather people from every nation and separate them as a shepherd separates sheep from goats. To those on his right, he will extend an invitation saying, come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. And he will explain why they are welcomed. For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me. At that moment, the righteous will be surprised. They'll ask, Lord, when did we ever see you hungry or thirsty or in need of anything? And Jesus will respond with a profound statement. Truly, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. In this teaching, Jesus reveals that every act of kindness, every gesture of compassion, every effort to help those in need is received as if it were done for him personally. When Jesus returns, he will look at how we treated others. He will recognize those who acted with compassion, kindness, and humility. They will be welcomed into his kingdom because they acted in love, reflecting his heart. This is a powerful reminder that love is not only what we feel, but more importantly, what we do. So, if there is one thing you choose to focus on in life, let it be love. Love in action is what makes a difference. Help those who need help, provide clothes for those without, feed the hungry, give comfort to the lonely, and, above all, let love be the driving force behind everything you do. If you make this your purpose, you will find yourself standing beside Jesus, embodying the love he taught. One day when you meet Jesus, you will want to hear him say, "Come into the kingdom, prepared for you since the creation of the world." And he will say this because when you loved others, you loved him. Choosing to be a person of love, compassion, and empathy places you in alignment with Jesus, now and for eternity.